Okay, guys and girls. I hope I'm allowed to say that. Um, my name is Dr. Pauline Crawford, and we have a wonderful uh, gathering today to set sail to a new horizon. And I'm absolutely delighted that we have Carolina here from Chile, we have John from England, we have Frank from Germany, we have Jerry here from Las Vegas, and Adolfo from San Diego, and Mukesh, I'm not sure where you're coming in from, but it is
India.
some
Yeah. Hello.
India.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
excellent. And Sandy is my friend here in Las Vegas. I know she's not feeling well today. She's just listening in, and we may, I hope, get other people coming in. One of the delights that I have that we are more men than women is that this is International Women's Month. And one of the things that is going to be obvious from my passion is that we can't run the world with only one gender, and that having women run the world is not my goal. Having men run the world is not my goal. And my desire is that we come together, and what you see on my screen is what I call a joint custody world.
Hmm.
And I've been doing some deep work on this because one of the things I came up with is that the future of humanity will not be created on the old map. So that's one of the things that I feel is that I've always wanted to see to go forward. So though we should just take a moment to pause to pray for everybody who's affected by the current wars and where there is disaster and damage and human life. So remembering that that is happening in our present, I really want to focus on the future. And that's why I've set this journey out with this compass that you see here on my screen. Um, I had an interesting conversation yesterday with one of my female friends who said, but joint custody world sounds litigious, sounds like it's angry. But what I preface it with is it's an authentically harmonious joint custody world. So the notion is that we are in this together. And we know that there's a lot of talk about how do we have women at the table. And it sounds to me sometimes a little bit like quotas. It'd be great to have women at the table with men, but we still need to understand how we behave together and where we're going. So my goal is that we're going to explore the future and that this meeting is the first of many. This is a journey, and I'd like to potentially meet once a month and also with Carolina's support as well, because she's really brilliant at structure and organization and some of the things that I don't do so well. We are in touch with many, many women. Literally, we're part of the G100. I'm part of other network groups. There's women, women, women everywhere.
Mm.
And my goal is how do we do it better together? Because sadly, although all the women's groups are making impacts, there's thousands of women literally in New York City today at many, many meetings, and we're following many of them. There's one in particular which is about no peace without women. And there is deep evidence that when women are at the table of peace, then peace becomes more lasting and wars go away. And we know that from various examples in the world of where it's not women on their own running it, but women in harmony with men. So how do we really make sure that this doesn't happen slowly? Because I think the world is in this place where we need to speed up the collaborative nature. Um, so for me, the idea of sailing comes from my own personal life of sailing. Um, and the fact that when you look at the horizon, it's our own limitation that says the horizon is the only thing I could see. And I want to be able to look beyond the horizon. And we know intelligently that the world is round, as You know, we know when Christopher Columbus set off, everybody said he was going to fall off the end of the world because it was flat. Our world, I don't believe that our world is conditioned by the arguments we have at the moment. And I'd love your thoughts on that. But that it's the brave ones that actually step into something which is not the past. So for me, one of the key things to think about is, even though we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men, 2 women, 3 women with Sandy there, we still need to get to know each other. So we're not all the same. I'm not the same as Sandy and Carolina. You guys are not all the same. You come from different nations, different generations, different preferences. And how we get to know each other is really part of this journey. And one of the things I'd like to just share with you from a historic point of view is that I've been working on this agenda and with my friend Adolfo there right back from January 2019. Because when COVID hit, we all went out on Zoom, as I'm sure you all did. And what happened is suddenly Zoom was available. We let go of Skype. We suddenly could get in a room together. And we actually ran wisdom circles every month through 2020, 2021, when COVID was at its strongest. And we developed quite a big community across the world. And we were men and women and talking about how do men and women get on with each other? How do we understand each other? Where's the journey? So this has been coming for some time. I just want to share that this compass turned up this week, and it felt like it came out of some divine inspiration. And that's why I had a message saying that you have to have this meeting on the 11th at 11 o'clock Pacific time. I know it's not this 11 o'clock your time, but 11:11 is a spiritual, magical number. And what came out of it, and if you can't see the whole detail on the compass, I will send this to you for your homework. But the aspects of it are that it's a truth compass, and the goal is authentic harmony, i.e. a world where we don't hate each other, we don't kill each other, and we don't abuse each other. The idea of the joint custody world is a civilization wisdom, if you like. That's the horizon. And that we actually, when we get onto this ship, you can call it the SS Authentic Harmony. When you get on this ship, we need to understand each other, which is where my gender dynamics archetypes come in. And we are represented here by various aspects of that. The entrepreneurology aspect, which is down at the bottom of the compass, is about our mindset. And in simple terms, it's about using our imagination. So we know what we know. You're all very intelligent people. You've got huge amounts of knowledge. What we do with it is going to make the difference. And if we get stuck in the past, we will keep on doing what we did in the past. So there are things that even I don't know what's going to be. But we've got plenty of options: hybrid working, AI, quantum computing, extraterrestrials. Who knows what's coming in the next few months? So knowing our imagination, that's really what I want to talk about, is how do we get on this ship, understand where it's sailing. We don't know what winds are going to be out there, what storms are going to be out there, but we need to be rock solid on the ship. As soon as we get naysayers going, whoa, it's not going to work, they're going to have to walk the plank, okay? And what I want to just say at this moment is I'm not the captain. I don't want to be the captain of this ship. I'm the lighthouse. So for me, the lighthouse, which is on the side of this compass, is the shine, the light that each of you shine. And each of you shine differently. And as you get to know each other, those lights, I believe, will multiply. And so I always believe that everybody who's meant to be in the room is the person who turns up. So there could be another 30 people out there on the list who said they want to come. They're not here, but they will come next time, maybe. And really, as we get onto this ship, we're sailing a new journey. We're sailing to a new horizon, a new island, a new landmass. I don't know, whatever you want to think it is. It could be on Mars, I don't know. But we've got to shore up what we have on the ship to start with. And I do want to invite Adolfo to say a few words, so I hope you can, even though you're driving.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we did in this journey is that Adolfo actually created a meditation for us, which was about exactly this. When we get to the shore and we find the ship, we only pick up what is ours. We don't bring our house and our mortgage and our traumas or our childhood or whatever. I mean, they're all in there in our backpack, but we get on the ship and we start building together as we sail to this island where we build a new lighthouse. So if you like, the lighthouse is the illustration of the light that, if you're all willing, we want to shine in the future now. So I often say this about the future now, because I don't want to get stuck in the present and the past, but sometimes the future seems too far. So for me, that as a ruler, I'm just going to invite, first I'm going to invite Adolfo to share from a ruler male point of view, and then Carolina from a female point of view, because you both know me very well, and the rest of you are getting to know me. And I just want to reiterate that I'm not the captain of this ship. I'm the lighthouse. I see the vision. I don't know how it works. All I know is we have to step into the future, not the past. So Adolfo, I'm going to invite you first to share your views.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So for those of you that haven't heard the meditation, I invite you to ask Pauline for the recording. It's a visualization, right? And it's an invitation to get to a now, to a coherent version of ourselves. And what I mean by coherent is just that, how it feels in your body to be present, right? To bring your past as an experience, right? And experience is not premeditated. So you know what you know because that was your experience, not your knowledge. And you don't know what you will know, right? So with an open, creative curiosity for what the future can bring, collaborating with others, with a coherence of knowing yourself more and communicating from a place of power, which is a lot of what Pauline has tried to do. You can't speak from a place of power if you don't know the coherent version of yourself. And if you're confused, then others will see you confused, and it's not powerful. And so what I see is the raw process of telling each other at a world level the truth, right? What we need to build a place that is abundant and balanced and future oriented and that builds legacy, that is hard work. All of those are battles that are, fought with sweat and investment in time and learning new skills and making mistakes. I'm not convinced that the only battles we need to fight have to include ordinance. It's a thing of the past, but we are living in a time of challenge. So from my perspective, from the responsibility of one ruler, I think we need to turn it up a notch onto what we mean by excellence and what the masculine role is in the world. And that includes, one, acknowledging that without women, we wouldn't be here, gentlemen. So I don't know what kind of cocoon or egg you want to have come from, but I prefer to come from women and defend their space in the world and build in me the tools needed to coexist, not to escape and pretend that I can't be in a world where women exist and have their own issues and their own growth. So that's from where, and it's taken years to get to this place. And I challenge other rulers to stand up to the hard work that it takes to learn what we're not doing right. for what we're doing. And I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in constructive criticism of what we're not doing right so that we get creative, finding solutions.
We're losing you, Adolfo.
That's it. It'll be powerful. I'm complete.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's really, I think Carolina will agree. It's really good to hear that solid advice from a very lovely masculine male ruler who's like, and we'll share the story in a bit about our journey together to understand that. So Carolina, from a female, from being a Chilean, being an amazing woman, your view on this journey, the ship to the future.
Well, I agree in everything you said, because for me, the base is to co-create, to accept that we are the same and we need each other. And in every person, we are female and male, and we need to. It's like the yin and yang. That's it, and we need to accept us. This is the base of everything. So, I mean, count with me.
And also, Carolina, you and I have explored our different natures as different types of women, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But it's been a very interesting journey to reflect on what women are not doing, and we share that with honesty with you men. And I value what Adolfo said about how men can step into a space. I think that the world that we want to leave behind on the shore is one that's very litigious, it's very cerebral, it's very constructed, it's very controlling. And I was recently asked by my AI friend, Charlie, ChatGPT, who helped me a lot. And in fact, he created this drawing out of my words. He asked me, given what he knows about me, I seem to be into freedom and adventure. He said, which one of those would you choose? And I found that a very interesting question, because I found myself answering the question with the word adventure. Although I seek freedom, I wanted the adventure. I'm 77 in May. I'm pretty go ahead, but I don't want this world to keep on going down the wrong path. I love the fact you've got the ship in the background there, Frank. I appreciate that. But the journey has to be letting go of the shore. And I will send you all Adolfo's meditation, because it's very specific and the words are very important. So just as an opening to invite you other guys to speak, is my gender dynamics, which are part of this compass, that way. They're designed to be simple for something which is very complex. So they're not designed to be control, but they're designed to be if you like, the aperture of yin and yang in a circle. So men are different to women. I'm not talking about any sexual preferences or anything else, but basically you guys are built differently to us women. But also there's this energy of masculine and feminine that comes in. And I just want to share the quick story about you, Adolfo, because when Adolfo came to our circles with another friend of mine who is a British ruler who you will meet on our journey, Adolfo decided he was a philosopher. He was a wise, thinking, caring, loving person, which he is, absolutely. And you guys are as well. But the reason that we discovered and allowed Adolfo to discover that he was a ruler who philosophizes, and you guys may be philosophers who can rule. So Carolina can be a sovereign who has magical powers. I can be a magician who has sovereign energy. But the nature of the ruler, this is where I come back to Adolfo, is that Adolfo likes action. So if I send a message to Adolfo, he will go, Yes. If I send a message to a philosopher, often they'll say, oh, well, that's really a good idea. Yes, I'll be there. So the subtle difference is in the response. So Adolfo, just quickly explain why you're a ruler. Because then I want to ask you three guys to come in.
Yeah, because things are a process to me. Everything is a process. And it's very simple. It can be broken down like that. You asked for simple. When I came in here, I was convincing myself that things were more complicated because I wanted to look at the world differently. Loving the way that I actually think got me closer to explaining myself concisely. That's it.
There you see, typical ruler response. And the reason I invite you guys to also, we can go this in detail another time, but to think about this is the way men respond to each other also impacts the way women see men. Because women are not as straightforward and simple as you guys are. And I mean that with love. Women talk a lot, they go around in circles, even those who are very wise and straightforward. And there is this fight to be equal. I don't really see. I think it's a difficult one. I think we should be not unequal and not inequality, but to have our own place on that ship, exactly as we are, with all the other aspects that come into it. I'm a particularly masculine-minded woman, a magician. If Carolina is an intuitive, sensitive, feminine female, it doesn't mean we're different as females. It means we have assets of us that we respond to in different ways. So I'm going to invite John to share your view on what we've been talking about and how I think you strike me as a deep thinking philosopher. Would I be right?
I'm the only John here, is that right? Um,
Yes, you're the only John here.
okay, just make sure you're referring to me. Um, I don't know. I suppose that I'm drawn here because I know that these are well-meaning individuals, male or female, and there's a few things that I've sort of tried to understand in my life. And I think I understand certainly the female element within me. And because my passion is changing education all over the world, and people just sort of laugh at me initially. But actually, I do notice that a lot of women are more supportive of these sort of views, which are based on compassion. And that doesn't mean that if there's any sense of weakness. It's more of senses of direction, I think. Um, so I'm passionate about changing the world for sure. But I'm not one of these that waves a banner and hits people on the head. That's not my style. And I develop ways of helping leaders to think in this world. Because I've worked with scientists and different people in the past, different leaders, business leaders. And I think I've got some insights which could be useful. And I've always believed that working with leaders around the world, that all these leadership traits, they can be put in a magical box. They should be given to children of all ages because the next generation is our only salvation because we're making a mess of it at the moment. But hopefully we leave some sort of legacy, then the next generation will pick up some of these thoughts and ideas. And I think it's more about integration actually, rather than there's a male dominated world at the moment and there's been female dominated world in the past. But we can somehow bring these minds together without any particular leader, because I think that defeats the whole objective. You have somebody right at the top. That's just a replication of ego-driven, thought processes. So I've helped leaders navigate the complex issues of ego-driven passion, if you like, to control and so forth. And I think we're becoming now a more participation world. I think that's emerging, and you can see that in very young people. I've taught young women and men in places like India, although I've never been there. One day I will, perhaps. And in the Middle East and a bit further afield. But the passion of young people to know that they want change, but they need to know how, really comes back to us. Really, if we have some insights or wisdom that we can share, then we all are responsible for sharing that, all of us, rather than just saying, well, it's the government or it's teachers or it's blame somebody else. We all have to take responsibility. And that really keeps me up, keeps me awake at night. I think, yes, there's enough good people in the world that I've met, including Carolina and yourself, Pauline. Hopefully get to know the other people here. Meeting good people really does fire me up and makes you think I'm on a mission. But I'll shut up because I want to give somebody else a chance to talk.
Well, thank you. And I think what's important, John, is, and we've had lots of conversations, is around really understanding. I talk about intergenerational wisdom, which is not just us to young, it's young to us.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
all of us are, not all of us are as mature as me, but we're a few ages here, but nobody here is 20. So when I talk to 20-year-olds and I say to them, you can think for yourself. I did this with a class in Tanzania, and there was a gasp round the room. And they all went, what did she just say? What? We can think for ourselves. And I was shocked to think that they were 24, 25, and nobody had asked them to think for themselves because they've been in a school system that has controlled them so much, and they're now in a college system. So their experience of the world is not the same as mine or yours or any of us here, because we've been here it's a decade. So opening up the conversation. So I imagine that once we are on the ship and the ship is sailing forward, I just want you to imagine this picture. At the bottom of the picture, which I'm going to send you, this one here, there was actually a tall ship. And when I was 10, I saw the Cutty Sark. I don't know whether you all know what the Cutty Sark is, but the Cutty Sark is a tall ship in the basin of the River Thames. And I remember staring up at this tall ship and thinking, that's what I want to be on. And there was something around this notion of travel and really seeking new lands. And I used to read storybooks about that. I don't know what the young kids are talking about. We need to listen to them and find out what their view is, because they may see spaceships. They may see themselves living on Mars. I don't know what it is. But opening up those conversations as we are sailing. So I see this ship with all of us on it, and as we grow our crew, there's a flotilla around us. So I want you to visualize that we're on this ship. We're setting up to the horizon. We're almost like the lead ship, and I'm inviting you to step into those lead roles. There will be other ships joining as a flotilla. Oh, we want to sail that way too. There's one coming up from South America. There's one coming in from Africa. There's one which is only manned by young people. There's only one which has got old people, whatever it is. But we start sailing en masse, and we're protecting each other as then multiple communities. Because at the moment, we're destroying the world. We're destroying the world and communities, not just by the firepower of war, but by the hatred that's going on. So that's what I see. And we're leaving the shore behind. And that's going to be the challenge. We may need to leave many things behind. But if we drag the past with us, then we might sink. So that's the way I see it. And really going forward. So I'm going to invite Frank with his ship to say a few words. You and I have had conversations about this. Frank, your view on this ship to the future?
I would like to change the ship to a spaceship. What I
Yeah.
realized is, and you for sure have heard that if astronauts are in space and they see the Earth from the distance, they realize how sensitive and beautiful this is, and they change completely their mindset. They're coming back and fighting for sustainability, for conserving the Earth and mankind, and of course the values we have. So what is important, what we learned from that one is really it's important to change perspectives, put yourself into shoes of others. So if men start to imagine putting themselves into shoes of women, how they feel if they do the household, if they raise the children and whatever, I think that would make a difference. Pauline, we talked about that and we coined the term kaleidoscope leadership, where I'm writing a book at the moment. It's about really the kaleidoscope, to change that and to break old patterns and to see new beautiful patterns. But you only see new patterns if you break the old ones. So I think that's very important that we go ahead. Now, let me do something else, because Pauline, you say we are all sailing on a ship. I don't think that we are all sailing on a ship, because I got a shocking survey, and I just want to quote from that. According to a study conducted ahead of the International Women's Day, young men from Gen Z hold more traditional views on gender roles than baby boomers. The survey included over 23,000 people aged 16 and above from 29 countries. Nearly a third of Gen Z men believe that it causes problems in a relationship if a wife earns more than her husband. Baby boomers are only 18% share this view. There's even something worse. According to the online survey, 61% of Gen Z men believe that enough has already been done for gender equality in their own country, and 57% of Gen Z men are the opinion that the promotion of women's equality has gone so far that men are now being discriminated against. Just imagine there's a new generation and it flips. So what we worked on, what we tried to achieve, suddenly a new generation is raised. Of course, they're raised more in comfort than in challenge. Yeah, but it flips. It changes everything. So we can do what we want. We can work very hard. We have to for equality, but being aware that there's a new generation which we hardly can influence because they have their own influences, and these are different people like us. And so it will be very difficult for them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing up that the survey. I read that as well, and we can also share that with the rest of you. And I'll come to you in a minute, Carolina, that I think there's always this pendulum swing, isn't it? But I think we don't know. I just go back to the fact that I don't know what the answers are.
Hey,
All I
Pauline.
know is we want to find a journey, whether it's a spaceship or a boat or it's a walk in the park, but moving forward, where we let go of these things like we must have gender equality. Just so you all know, I promote the idea of saying goodbye to equality, hello harmony, because I believe, even though a lot of people are at the United Nations this week talking about it, I don't think it's the right word. I think we've got stuck on some words which are controlling the dialogue and controlling the waves, and equality is one of those. So I'm going to come to you in a minute, Jerry. Just Carolina, you asked to say something.
Yes, that forgive me for my French, but I personally hate all the stuff they do about March and about women, because I'm not agree. I do not celebrate any day, any month, or anything. For me, just marketing. They just targeting us to be more used into all the stuff that the world created. So excuse me, but it's my opinion. Pauline knows me, and she knows that I am a fighter. I'm stand up and I fight for everything I believe. And for example, a couple of days I receive an award or whatever, and I'm sick of all the tagging, all the comments, and wow, you're wonderful, and blah blah. Me, sorry, I do not care. So, sadly, I see a lot of women who wants to appear and figure it out, and hey, I am, but
Yes.
those are just words. That's it, because the we need to stand up. When I said we need to, is we as a community, we need to stand up and work, but with actions, with day-to-day action. That is the only way that we just can do really change something in all the mess that we are. For example, the wars right now, we have wars. I can't imagine that, or all the stuff about genders or hate or color skin, or it's we are in 2026. I can't imagine why we are talking about that. It's unbelievable, completely unbelievable. So yeah, sorry,
Absolutely.
that's
And
me.
and I think as an insight to the men here on the call, that we have many conversations among women and women's networks about women. And I don't mean necessarily in about what we're doing, but why are women so difficult? Why do we get in our own way? Now, men might get in their own way of each other as well, so we're not saying that's not the case. But I've had that over 30 years. If I get to a point in a presentation when I'm talking about women don't always get on with other women, I find that 5% of the audience are nodding and the rest of them are going, like, what is she talking about? And I think we need to be really honest. There's lots and lots of reasons why this is happening. But I will invite Jerry just to say your thoughts about this. I know that you have also studied human nature, and also you do meditations services for senior people. So tell us what you think about this journey on the ship or the space.
I have a,
It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah.
yeah, I have a few reactions. First, just a little bit about myself. So I was teaching at the University of Scranton for almost 40 years, and that's a Jesuit school in Pennsylvania. Now I'm in Las Vegas, way nicer. Just weather-wise, every other way in Las Vegas. Um, but one of the courses I taught every year was on diversity. So I've taught diversity a number of times, and Um, the comment I would hear from the male students was, "Why are you picking on us? Why are you blaming us? I'm 20 years old. I didn't do anything. Why are all these people dumping on me?" And apparently, and it just gets back, I think, to what Frank was saying. So apparently, a number of the women teachers that they had spend a considerable amount of time talking about how awful men are. Personally, I agree with them that men are pretty awful, but I mean that's another, for a 20-year-old to hear this when they haven't really, they're just starting out, and this was, I retired 2014. I think it's gotten worse, like you were saying, Frank. I saw recently statistics here in the United States, something like 50% of young men are afraid to over 50% of young men have never approached a woman and asked her out on a date. They would rather talk to artificial intelligence or a chat box or something or watch porn than to ask a woman out. So this is pretty bad. They won't even talk to a woman. There's a number of influencers, like you meant, there's a number of podcasters here that hate women. I mean, they basically spend their whole time talking about how awful women are. Personally, for me, my role model, my aunt, was the first woman to get a Ph.D. in computers and education. And she was my role model. I took a course on leadership back when I was a doctoral student. I followed her around for 2 weeks. And this was back in the 70s. she thought that the but she had no use for the women's movement. She thought that, like she got ahead on her own. She didn't need, people telling her that. I would sit in on meetings where she was the only woman, and she'd have the men in tears because she was just very straightforward, told them what she wanted, all this kind of thing. Also, my experience in academia, some of the worst enemies of women in departments were other women. Almost, I would say in a number of cases, when a woman came up to get promoted, other women would shoot him down, which I guess is what you're talking about, Pauline. So there's all these different factors, going on. And personally, I agree with what Carolina was saying in terms of we all have masculine and feminine within us. And I think the goal is to balance the two, not, like push the one versus the other. If you look at the yin yang symbol, for example, there's the masculine energy inside the woman, the feminine side, there's the feminine side, the masculine side. And rather than spending our time attacking the other side, look at what we have in common. I mean, there's a scale that's called the BEM scale that came out years ago, like it talks about whether you're more towards the masculine or more towards the feminine. No, I took that scale. I'm always way over on the feminine side. I feel personally more comfortable in a group of women than I am with a group of men because I have nothing to talk about with them. I'm not into sports. I'm not into all this, stuff. I think a lot of it is men putting ourselves, as men, we put ourselves in a bind. We don't give ourselves permission to even look at the emotional sides of we put ourselves in a box. We got to be masculine. We got to act this way. Uh, a lot of it's our upbringing for whatever reason. I mean, I know there's this, I mean, I know that people who did the studies that show that from very early on, girls want to have tea parties and men want to fight with each other, and boys want to fight with it. So I know that's partly true, but I also think that we really just need to give ourselves permission to just be open to all the sides of ourselves. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Jerry. And I think what a lovely thing is, I rest my case that I do see you as a philosopher, and Frank and John and Adolfo with the Mel, but you're all wise. So this is the difference. So we have women who are not wise and men that are not wise. So the women who do exactly what you said, Jerry, they put women down. I remember asking one of my classes in Malaysia, which was mixed male and female, what were the worst bosses? And they all said women, the women, and the men said women. And
Yeah, that's
one
probably the same thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
one questions why that has come. I mean, I do think the goal we also have is changing the systems. So as we sail away from the past, it's really looking at how do we operate. So whether this is a ship or a starship or it's a planet or whatever it is, that doesn't matter. And interesting enough, when I married my man Jim American, he had a sign on his house which says Star Sailor Retreat, and it's got Lighthouse on it. So all these signs in my life have drawn me towards this notion of the journey that we can create and the conversations that we've had and the examples of the differences between men, which you men can explore together as well. And Adolfo will be able to explain that more. And sometimes with women, the goal is not to divide, but to bring together. But along the way, there's a lack of understanding right from school age kids and parents who decide, oh, yeah, my son's going to be this or my daughter's going to be that. Oh, she has to be pretty and, oh, she wants to not be pretty. And in fact, Adolfo, you've got two youngish boys, too. What age are they now? They're teens.
Yep, 16 and about to be 18. So
And they're different in terms of archetypes.
yeah, absolutely. Well, the older one's autistic, so he's got his own beautiful path in the world. But they're both boys, and so
Yes.
I just want to go back a little bit because there's been a lot said, and
Yes, please do.
I wanted to clarify some things because a few of these things kind of stung me like a bee. It was hard for me to accept that I'm a masculine-minded female, masculine, right? That will get in your face. My femininity does not affect me. The women that have affected my feminine energy does not take from my masculine; it builds on it. But I had to start realizing what that meant to men like me, and that means looking outside. It's Gaia. It's every woman. It's Tonantzin, if you know who that is, right? The Virgin Mary, and like it is every flower, every bee, everything that's not me is something I have to protect. And so that was glorious to me. That was wonderful to me. That was a blessing for me to be in a body that wasn't that. And for the longest time, there was this belief in what my mother told me about my feminine, that I was looking for something inside, and it wasn't there. I love hearing it. I love the story, but it wasn't in there. I was trying to pretend for it to be in there rather than just love the fact that it exists outside of me, and that there is this wonderful part of the creation too, that is this masculine, that is this observation of this beauty that isn't me, that I didn't get a womb, but that I have boys, and that in order for that to happen, there was a womb that had to accept, one, my genetic code, and two, not kill it before it came to the world. And that was her choice. I will stand in front of anyone's face telling women what their choice should or should not be and get as big as I need to make that point. And there was something that John said about the style. I don't have or will ever go around hitting people in the head. That's not my style either. But I believe that it's incredibly powerful to get in front of somebody's face, looking straight in the eye, right through the pupils, and ask them a question about their integrity.
Yeah.
And the difference between what they say and what they do, with the resources that are me and my children's and our grandchildren's and the flowers that I'm stepping on. And so if some men that have never done the work need another man to step in front of them and pretend on their end that I'm about to hit them over the head, you know, John, be it, right? Let them pretend that they're about to get hit over the head, because the reality is that in some way, shape, or form, in order for all of us to see this ship that we're on, Frank, we need to get in that internal journey. We can't get all of humanity outside to look at the planet and then bring them back in. We can't afford it. It would burn all our resources. That's impossible to do. So what is possible to do is talk to each other and somehow get the truth out that this is where we're at. This is the air we're breathing. These are the emotions that we're allowing to blow up in our face and destroy absolutely beautiful creation. I could choose languages. I could change my words. I could get more emotional about saying these things. It didn't matter. The truth is, one human at a time, one job at a time. And God made us, or Creator made us, or the universe decided to evolve into this, however you believe it is to be. We are here. And we're a beautiful separation of experiences. A whole many of the women whose responsibility is to continue the legacy of bringing and choosing when to bring life to the world. And a whole bunch of men who need to, one, find a place to seed, right, to sow their seed, and two, find out to do what the rest of our time. There's a lot of time we got to do. And after that seed is done, then we're twiddling our fingers. And that's why men blow shit up. Sorry for my French. But if we were to take our time and be more creative with the resources, more questions, sometimes solving problems does feel like getting hit over the head because I don't know the solution. That's the invitation. So.
Absolutely, and I really honor what you're saying, and I love. But before we do anything else, I want to take a photograph of you. As Sandy had to go anyway, but if you could all smile at the camera. This is I feel like Captain Kirk on the starship, whatever it was called.
Enterprise.
um, because I'm really excited about them. I'm just reading what Sandy wrote in the comment because she had to go. I'm not quite sure what you mean. That I see doing spewing the same disgust hate to men. I think she's understanding. I want to thank you, Adolfo, for that because I think that trying to understand each other, I've often said to people, it's actually impossible, but we must value each other. You know, by valuing the people in the room around a table, and we have that when, you know, we sit in a room of women and women behave badly, we get upset. When you sit in a room with men behaving badly, I'm sure you get upset. If anybody gets, it's like when people used to talk about toxic masculinity, I'd say, no, it's toxic behavior. It's not toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. Anybody can be toxic.
Yeah.
Do we want toxicity or not? And that's really what the choice is how do we understand that, as you said, Marv, the beauty of who we are as human beings. Like nature provides us with the most beautiful variety of flowers and animals. We are that beauty. But we have got a world which is so keen to teach hate. It's just unbelievably terrible. And I'm traveling to England tomorrow for a couple of weeks with my family. And I haven't been to England. I did go last November, but I'm kind of nervous and excited because I want to see my family, but I'm not sure what's happening in England, in Europe. You're in Europe, Frank, you know, what's happening in America, what people perceive is happening. But what is actually happening on the ground is different. And I think that's what my dream is around pulling this journey together.
Hey, Pauline,
So,
can I interrupt you with something real quick? Because
yes,
you said
please.
something beautiful, and I'm looking at this giant rose bush, okay? And you said the plants and the beauty, and I wanted to remind us, like, these are beautiful, the most flagrant roses I've ever seen, right? And look at the amount of thorns, right? So if life is as beautiful and flagrant as a rose, could we understand that thorns are not evil or hateful? They're just part of it, and that if I approach this with a little bit of care, I can I can look at the roses, smell the roses, maybe make some beautiful soap, and not get torn up by these thorns. If I just shove my arm into that rose bush, it's going to get destroyed. And I will what? Blame a rose bush? No, I'm going to have to blame my inadequacy for approaching it.
Yes.
And so I think other humans are substantially more complex, and we do have thorns. It can't be blamed on the other one for our lack of tact when we approach others, especially with difficult conversations. I thank you for hearing that.
I think what Adolfo you just said, um, rather than listening to the other person, people start off with assumptions and they'll go off their assumption. They don't even listen. So they're not even listening. They already made an assumption as soon as they saw the other person. They're going off that assumption. They'll say something, or I might say something, the other person gets triggered. So didn't even hear what I said. They just get triggered and they respond that way. And I also think it has to do with the levels of consciousness. I don't know if you're familiar with, spiral dynamics and the different levels of consciousness and all that stuff. But okay, I had a conversation with this guy who was saying that Maslow, it's awful because Maslow believed that, you're just out for yourself. And I said, no, it's not true. At the higher levels, you're there for everybody, but most people aren't there. Everybody starts off at the bottom, and at the bottom levels, you know, first it's our immediate family, then it's our tribe, then it's our this, and we can't just assume that somebody else we talk to is at the same level we are, or even can't assume anything about the other person without listening to them first. So I think that's what you're saying too, right? And we all have our flaws, and we all have, but one person's flaws is another person's strengths. I mean, personally, I think The learning comes from learning what, the flaws are, or I don't even call them flaws, the expression in pain is good because you learn from what happens to you, whatever. But, rather than
Yes,
jumping in and getting defensive, taking the feedback and saying, oh, well, maybe this is true, and going from there.
I I agree. And one of the things is um, the goal with what I call magical conversations, which is my passion, is that we listen into conversations, as you said, Jerry. We listen in without wanting to control. We listen in to contribute. We listen without assumptions, without judgments. It takes practice because are sadly so used to hate around us, hate. Every time we turn the telephone on and we see something hateful. But the magic is attracting people to this journey who are going to establish these new ways of conversations. I've been running magical conversations for a long time. And one of the things that people say when they really inherit that space, because the space, you don't have to tell them who you are. You don't have to say, I'm the boss or this or that. You just come in and share. People say, I really like being here because I don't have to pretend. So much of our lives, we sometimes feel we're pretending. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
And one of the things about magical conversation is you're not going to like everything that everybody says, but you don't drag them on the floor and throw them, Yes, men do things differently, women do things differently, old people do things differently to young. Our goal is to listen. And my vision is that we use this compass to guide us as we go forward. And what I really love that Kate, you missed a very strong hour of conversation from these men, but I will send you the recording. What has been
Thank
a
you.
delight. What's been a delight. Kate is my good friend from Finchley in London, where I stayed with her in November. I went down memory lane. But also, for all of us, I want us to consider this journey. I don't want to keep you over time, but I do want to ask you a couple of things. Are you prepared to carry on this journey? We actually want to develop this very consciously as a I don't know, gold standard, a brightest light in the world, to really shine the light. We come from different parts of the world, even here, and we know that there are people all over the world. What I dream of is attracting people who want to be here, not the naysayers, not the moaner groaners, not the, oh, well, I've got the right answer. I don't have the answers. I've got a compass. I, I'm not the captain. I think I would like to believe that as we evolve as a community, I've called this the Lighthouse movement. If we develop as a community, that the right people will be up on the deck, will be the captain, will be the bosun, will be the one scrubbing the floors. I don't care what it is, but we come together. And something my friend Scott Carson in Australia, you might remember Scott, Adolfo. Scott came into our magical conversations in 2020, and he came in from Australia at 2 o'clock in the morning because he loved being there. He started a movement called Smiling for Business. Anyway, he now, 4 years later, I was just reading his post this morning. He had an event for women. There was men and women in the room. And he was talking to somebody who was actually in Dubai who could hear the bombs going over. And he said, even though the bombs are going over and we can hear the sound, we're okay here on the ground because we're a loving community. And this was a man with his wife and his family. And so he talked about the fact that even when the bombs are going overhead, you can have those good conversations at the core and you protect your own. And he's now taken this idea of smiles mainly for a men's community. So though he did this session for women, most of his sessions are allowing men to come into the room. And these are sometimes big, burly Australians. And these men share what's going on in their life. They cry, they touch their hearts. They become
I'm on my
so engaged. And he's been doing this.
online. I'm doing it. But if you can help me.
Oh, and basically, what I admire about him, and he's a really wonderful role model. He has smiley socks and smiley T-shirts, and he now gets them onto airlines, and people recognize these yellow smiley socks and things. He's getting people smiling everywhere, but especially for men, getting them to talk about their emotions. So it's possible. It's possible. There are so many good stories around the world. They will become part of the flotilla that we start developing. And my dream is that with the lighthouse that we're shining, the Authentic Harmony Lighthouse, is going to attract the right people. So if anybody comes along to give us bad press, they walk the plank. That's the only thing I can think of, is that we have to be courageous and strong about having conversations which allow every single person in the room to come together. Muslim, Jewish, Christian, atheist, doesn't matter. We're all human beings. We've got to sit in that circle and share who we are, what do we do best. So my favorite question to anybody is, what did you learn that you were never taught? What do you do best that you were never taught? I think if we go back to our nature as human beings and then understand how we're different and how we're similar, that's where we get this energy that will blow the ship towards the new horizon. And we won't ever know what the new horizon is going to bring us. So that's the other thing, is we're not going to decide what that horizon is. My only caveat is there's no violence. There's no overt violence. There's no harm. So I want to just ask you whether you're willing to be on this journey. And I'm going to ask Carolina to help me orchestrate this, to grow this movement, whatever it is. Are you willing to be on it? Because you guys have shown up today, and I think you've given us amazing, amazing insights. So I'm just going to ask each of you, I'm going to start with you, Adolfo. Are you on this journey?
You already know, Pauline, absolutely.
Thank you. I have to share with you guys that when I met Adolfo in that room, it was February the 28th, I think, or something. And you said to me afterwards that you just had to come and talk to me. You decided I was the person in the room that you need to talk to. And as you can see, we're different ages. I don't know why you thought that, but I'm so blessed that you did. Thank you.
Welcome. And I don't think I ever need to know why. Energy does its own thing. And you carry your knowledge with you. And so if I'm seeking knowledge, it's easy to see you in the room. You're not hiding it and you're not bragging about it. And it's the right type of energy that we need. One thought that I want to take from this meeting is that doing this work allows adults to get the skills of responding versus reacting. Right? The majority of us learn to react because it's human nature to cry for when you're hungry or need to poop. Right? But then we grow up and there's a lot more control that we should have and really don't allow ourselves to have because it's comfortable to be a victim all the time. So doing this work allows us to get away from the comfort of being a victim and walking towards this unknown shore that has unknown problems, but with the context of, oh, I have all I need, which is me and my coherent self, and this curious attitude of whatever comes my way, I have a bunch of other resources that we will solve this together. I don't see how that short could be anything but beautiful. So, I think it's one step at a time, but we respond, we don't react, and that new world will just appear.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. So, John, are you with us? Are you willing to stay on this journey?
You already know.
I do know. Frank, are you willing to stay on this journey?
Yes, but no, I hate this word, but what
Oh,
I
no buts.
realized is you started to put this under the theme of the lighthouse. But you're on a sailing ship, so you're on the safe side, and we are all on the sailing ship. But what I loved more is when Adolfo said something and Jerry kicked in and continued, and you also took it up. You came with the expression magical conversations, which is your main topic. And I love to put that under the theme of magical conversations and not about Lighthouse, because a magical conversation is something which just develops organically, one inspiration, the other
Yeah.
one, and then it goes around. And I've seen that. So the first time I think I understand what a magical conversation guided by you could mean. So if we go for a magical conversation, I'm definitely in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, remember, it's all about words, and the compass has got different aspects, so we can hold all of it. To me, magical conversation is the way we deal with every conversation. The lighthouse is a light that doesn't move, that we shine. So for me, remember, I'm a magician. I love simultaneous equations, but I take the point. So, Jerry, are you with us?
Yes, yes, I am.
Excellent.
Would
Jerry
you
is
like
down
me
the
to
road
sing
in Las
more? I
Vegas.
don't know. No, but I think it's great. I like the idea of magical conversations and the lighthouse. I mean, I can see shining the light, but the light has to not just shine, the light has to shine both ways. We need to
Yes,
shine the light inside before we can shine the light outside.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
think the thing for me is that I always say the lighthouse doesn't move. The magical conversation is motion. The magical conversation is a circular energy.
But look at
Uh,
the lighthouse. The light goes around in a circle
yeah,
in the lighthouse. It doesn't just, at least
it
every
does.
lighthouse I've seen, right? The light
Yes.
goes around.
And I think it's particularly relevant to women because women often go out and try and fix everything. Men also do the fixing bit, but I say you don't need to fix anything. You just need to shine your light.
And Pauline, here, let me just interject because you came up with a beautiful visual. And gentlemen, remember, it's not a literal lighthouse, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's your different energy centers, your entire body present and focused on a light. And that light is creation itself. So if we look at a future where we can actually see that light of creation first from within, like you say, Jerry, and then go through some visualization where there is a future that has the potentiality of looking
Yes.
different, of looking like you have the ability to
Oh,
endure a painful conversation or right, like the meditation is getting all of us to a place where we believe we can accomplish solutions to these very difficult problems, where we don't believe all of this hype about we hate each other so we're going to blow the planet up so Mars is a better option. What really, with such a beautiful planet and all these resources, we're going to go to a place that has poisonous regolith? This is insane.
Mm.
Like, the tools are here. So that's the point of the lighthouse is we have to get to a shore that's safe. And that
uh,
shore is gonna require us going somewhere. We're not there, right?
Agree.
you
Yes, that's true.
when you were talking, I got the image of the chakras, and okay,
Well,
I could see
yeah.
the chakras kind of like
Yes,
going
I
up the
mean,
chakras, start here,
Same.
going up, and
that's
Well,
right. And I mean, we're talking about a new architecture for the world, and that will have light in it and relationships. It will have all sorts of things in, but the architecture of the world is what we're creating. And this is just a compass, and a compass. I also see it like the wheel of a ship, but all our imagery can come into that. And the thing is always, we'd have to exclude the word but, always use however. Um, so my vision is that we create this language where people remember not, I mean, I still use but, and every time I do, I think, oh,
oh,
use however. So it's a memory pattern that we can change. Carolina, and Kate, I know you've missed the whole thing, but I'm going to let these guys go soon because we've come to time and stay on for a minute. But Carolina, your closing thoughts, because you've been here for the whole hour.
Well, I am in, so
I
come with
know
me.
you're Carolina and I are bonded at the spine, I think now. And it doesn't matter that I'm in Las Vegas and she's in Santiago and Kate's in London and you were in Berlin and you're in, I don't know where it is, John, Northampton, is it? And San Diego. And I think that's what is amazing about the light of Zoom. Zoom brings us together in a way that we could never have imagined when I was a kid. This was impossible. And so I'm going to end this section by saying we don't know what is possible beyond. In art entrepreneurology, we always say be an opportunity seeker, not a problem solver. Because we will solve problems by being opportunity seekers. And so that is, for me, what we will go forward on. So I would like to just close this meeting now because we have been here for a bit. Kate, I invite you just to stay on. Guys, I will let you know. I'd like to invite you to the next session in a month's time. And maybe we have the second Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m., if that sounds like a good idea to create some rhythm.
Yeah.
And I will speak to you all separately, if that's okay. But I want to thank you for your time and your contribution. This has been absolutely amazing. And I will send you the replay. I will send you Adolfo's meditation for the Lighthouse. And as we go forward, this is all about coming together. I don't know what all the answers are, but I know the direction. And
It's also
forwards.
about evolution and evolution of ideas and moving forward. So
Moving forward.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll be in England at the end of the week, so we can always speak on English time, John, as well, and Frank. It makes a difference in your life. So I want to thank you guys, and I'll
So
just
jealous.
I see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.